Okay, good morning and welcome to our beautiful City Hall, which we are so fortunate to have as our workplace every day. Or not my every day, but staff's every day. And every time I pull up, I just get a warm, fuzzy feeling that I am so blessed to be the mayor of this city and be able to utilize this facility. So with that, I'm just going to give you a little history. Most of you probably know this used to be the historic Dakota County Courthouse. And the building of it started in 1869 and took all the way to 1871 to build. We are the second oldest historic courthouse in Dakota County, or in the state, I'm sorry. Stillwater is the first. So we take pride in knowing that we have this building and we can utilize it. Then in the 1970s, Dakota County had a flourish of significant growth, and they felt that they were starting to outgrow this building. So hence we have the Dakota County Courthouse, which is on the west now. And in 1993, this building was furbished, and then and it became the City Hall. And our old City Hall used to be down on Sibley and 2nd Street, which is now a restaurant. So just to keep it in that downtown area, I think was very unique for our community. So again, please, afterward, if you feel you have the time, walk around because the history is so amazing, and we want you to enjoy it as much as we enjoy it. So with that, I'll tell you a little bit about what's going on in our city. We are experiencing many housing permits as well as new business developments, which is great. We currently have approved and have underway 8 different developments that are going on within our community. You may have seen a little bit if you're coming in from the west, and we have some in the south within the middle of our community as well. So, and the interesting thing about it is we're able to cover all aspects of development. So we have senior housing going on, we have multi-housing going on, we have villas going on, which we are a senior growing community, and those people want somewhere to move to so they don't have to do their lawn, plow their snow, whatever. And so these villas and these senior housing units, I think, are going to be a big start of a movement so those people can move into those areas, and our younger families will be able to have housing to move into and affordable housing. In the area of business and commerce development, we were definitely thrilled to have Fleet Farm want to join our community, and that's on the west end of town as you're coming in as well, which used to be a Target. And so it just makes me happy. I think it makes all of us happy to know that we're going to have a welcoming business entering into our community. The vacated Hudson building, which would be before the bridge, or coming in from the bridge, which used to be a Hudson Manufacturing, is now going to be a event center, hotel, apartments, and it will be called the Confluence, and that's due to open late fall of this year. The next month, we will launch a study for Highway 61, the main road thoroughway through here that will support growth and commercial space and more. Come on in. With all the growth comes with stronger community engagement and transparent processes on the part of local government, which is why we figured this panel would be interesting for you to see how we communicate within our community with all of our partners. And we're pretty fortunate, I think we're very fortunate to have radio, TV, and 2 newspapers, which in a community of 23,000, you want to try to find an area of communication that is going to hit your seniors, your youth, and Dawn Skelly, our communications director, also does our Facebook and works well with our community team throughout, or news team throughout the community. So Dan and I thought this would be really interesting. I think we're probably the only city who has all 4 components and 2 newspapers, and 1 is online and 1 is paper. So each one will be able to give you a description as to what they do within our community, for our community, with the city. And we're so fortunate to have them. So first off, we have with us Mike Bremmer, who is with HCTV, and he has put together a little video for us, and humor and all within. And Mike is such a great asset to our community, as you'll see.
All right. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for the intro, Mayor Mary. As Mary said, my name is Mike Bremmer, and I am the Executive Director of Hastings Community TV. Hastings Community TV is the nonprofit public access station that's been around since 1986. So we have 3 tiers of programming. We have community programming, public access. We do education, which is everything school related. So we do a lot of high school sports. We also cover the school board meetings, graduations, prom, and then government. And that's what I'm here to talk about, what we're here to talk about today. So we cover all of the meetings, we televise them, and we live stream them. We do a show called The City Minute, featuring Dawn Skelly, who was mentioned before, which is kind of a city update show. But instead of me trying to explain all of this, I'm actually going to show you guys a video here. Pretty brief video, but it's going to show about 8 different categories of different types of productions and segments we do. So let me load up the computer here. I'm going to try to remember the password.
Entertain a motion to approve the first reading of a charter of ordinance of the City of Hastings amending precinct and ward boundaries and scheduling a public hearing for April 4th.
Hi everybody, housing is coming to Hastings. As you can see behind me here, we are in a housing boom as we speak right now. We're at Heritage Ridge in Hastings off General Sieben Drive and Fallbrook Drive. This is one of the many developments that we've seen within the city of Hastings over the last couple of years.
Art and culture are coming to life in downtown Hastings. The City of Hastings is hosting a trio of events downtown on Thursday evenings in September. These include the production of a 90-foot mural taking shape on the rear wall of Hastings Family Service.
Welcome to the Hastings City Council Recap. In this video, items of importance from the March 7th council meeting will be reviewed by HCTV for the viewers. The meeting began with a presentation given by Interim Public Works Director Ryan Stemsky on 2022 neighborhood infrastructure improvements. The site of the former Target in Hastings has found a new tenant for business. The City of Hastings announced 2 weeks ago Fleet Farm will be purchasing the building that once housed Target and repurpose it into their own brand.
It was very exciting when I became mayor. That was one of my focuses for this building. You know, I heard a lot of sadness that Target was leaving, and even though it happened before my term started, it was a focus that I wanted to get going against.
Now is a great time to protect healthy ash trees for as long as it takes. The annual cost of ash tree protection is less than the annual benefit that tree provides the property.
Let's say that we don't do anything and we just let all the trees die and we remove everything. Our urban forest is going to look totally different, because, I mean, then we're looking at close to 40% of our tree population gone.
I'm Brian Schaefer, Chief of Police in Hastings. Fentanyl and other opioids are here in Hastings. Our police officers, EMTs, and firefighters respond to dozens of overdoses and poisonings a year. You can help. Call 911 in an emergency, including an overdose.
Good afternoon. I am Hastings City Administrator Dan Waticha. This has been a year of finding focus, and we are focusing on the future. For example, the fire department is conducting an analysis of its staffing levels and response model to improve its service.
Today, I'm a rookie on the beat at the Hastings Police Department. Watch as I'm shown everything I need to know as an officer in training, from hunting down speeders to having some shocking fun shooting tasers. But do I push the limits a bit too far and find myself serving hard time? Find out if this is an episode of Law and Order or Law and Disorder.
Cool. So there you have it. So that's a little overview, primarily focused on the government side of things. But you can see we have a lot of fun. It's fun, teaming up with the city here, have great relationships with everybody here in this building. And our staff is only about 8 people, so we don't have a huge staff. 3 of us are full-timers. So just kind of figuring out how to use our resources is always kind of a challenge, but we're going to talk about challenges a little bit more. Another thing I want to say is all the media in town have a great relationship, where if we're not able to make it to an event and need a photo or need to share a video clip, I know I can call one of these people up here and we help each other out quite a bit. So overall, that's just kind of an overview of Hastings Community TV, and thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mike. And as you can see by the video, we do have humor with it. And Take a Hike Mike he's everywhere. So it's all good. Yes, right? We have a good marriage, yes. So next, let's bring up Maureen Mcneery. And she is the voice of KDWA, one of the voices. And Mo brings a lot of humor to our community as well.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor and Mary. I didn't see any clips of that great show called Talk of the Town. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, hello. Anyway.
Yeah, she hosts the show as well.
Anyway, it's really a pleasure to be here. This is really a unique forum, I think. And I want to give a little bit of background about KDWA. The owner of the station is Dan Massman. And some information about Dan. He started working at KDWA when he was a kid. And I think it's really such an American good news story that he then did other things. He worked for many years at the St. Paul Pioneer Press. He worked at Hastings Community TV for a while as a news anchor. And then he decided, you know what, I really like radio. And when the radio station was up for sale, he bought it. He also owns a gigantic radio station in Albert Lea. And that station is primarily classic rock. KDWA has been around since 1963, and it has both an AM and FM signal. So shockingly, the AM signal is probably what you can hear in some of the geographic areas that you're in. We also are online, which is really nice. The format has changed over the years. We can't compete with big city radio stations for music or for whatever. So my boss, Dan Massman, the owner of the station, decided a long time ago to really be hyper-local. So he focuses on hyper-local news, sports, community events, weather. Yes, our weather is Hastings-based. And we do online and on-air shopping shows, which are kind of fun. And then I host a lot of 19-minute interview segments featuring different newsmakers and, human interest stories that are also available on podcasts. So I think he's doing a really great job trying to cover, and like Mike said, we're a small business as well. And so all of us do many things. Clean the bathrooms, those types of things, yeah. So my background actually is in sales and marketing. I didn't go to Brown College. Do you remember that, Brown College? You went to Brown College? Yes. Congratulations. And what did you do with your, what? And what did you do with your degree?
I did radio for a few years.
How fun.
And then left and got smart because I couldn't make it happen.
Well,
For myself. It was
for
you,
I don't know.
The station's awesome. The shopping show. Not to interrupt your thing, but I love it. It's awesome.
Okay, testimonial. I love it. Are you a closet listener?
Yes.
We have a lot of those. Seriously, we have a lot of those. I don't know what that's about. But anyway, so I worked actually in sales and marketing. I always did voiceover work in the Twin Cities, and one of my clients was a client of KDWA. So that's how I first got introduced to KDWA. And I worked actually for News Corps, which some of their iconic brands are like the Wall Street Journal, HarperCollins, Fox News. So I'm familiar with media, but this is a completely different side of it because it's so hyperlocal. But I do think it's so unusual to have radio, TV, 2 newspapers in the same town. And I think that's really wonderful because I think we each have our own unique niche. And I think, that's best for the people that we serve because we're in customer service, really, don't you think? We're here to report the facts. And I'm interested to get into a discussion with some of my colleagues about that's getting harder and harder to report just the facts because the world has changed. Social media has given people an opportunity to think they're an expert on everything, the internet also. And I'm literally preaching to the choir. You guys already know that as people in public office, that you have a lot of customers out there. So I'm anxious for this. So thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And I want to say, whoever scheduled this meeting, John is an Irishman also. Maureen Mary Mcneery. Are you kidding me? It's the day after St. Patrick's Day. But anyway, it's all good. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mo. Next, we'll have John Mcloone, and John is with the Hastings Journal, which is a newsstand paper that you actually can pick up and hang on to. So, welcome, John.
Thank you. Yeah, I also gave Mary a hard time about the 8 o'clock meeting the day after St. Patrick's Day, and then I remembered I'm old, so. My name is John Mcloone. I publish the Hastings Journal. We have a group of, I like to say I'm a large man who has a small publishing group. We have a paper in Pierce County, Wisconsin, and Cottage Grove, Minnesota, and I have another paper in Stanley, Wisconsin. And my papers over here are really kind of born out of the pandemic. There was the company that owned the Hastings paper that was in business at the time, also had the Pierce County Herald and the River Falls Journal, and they started contracting these papers and consolidating them into other papers, and they kind of, I felt like they left the market open. So I had a small paper, maybe 800 subscribers in Prescott that I like to say that I won or lost in a dice game, and I just kind of kept it going because I wasn't ever gonna put a newspaper out of business. I mean, that just the market didn't really support it, but then they left the market open. So we the first week of January 2020, we rebranded the Prescott Journal as the Pierce County Journal, moved to the county seat in Ellsworth. And we went from 800 subscribers to this week, we printed 3,600 papers there. We grew, it literally was a movement. It was crazy. I mean, it was a one-guy operation to start with, and it was almost too much. I think it was too much, but we have 12 employees now. We started in Hastings, that same company. Shut down their paper the first week of May in that same year, 2020. So we started in Hastings the second week in May, and we printed 3,200 papers here this week. So it's good. I mean, we'll get to the challenges, but most of them are self-imposed. But we work hard and we have fun. We have, like I said, a great relationship. Anybody standing here at a city council meeting, I steal that screenshot and put it in the paper, so from Hastings Community TV, and I usually sit over there at city council meetings because I can sneak out the easiest. So, And I've always wanted to sit up here because I always thought, man, if I could just have my say on this, it'd be over a lot quicker. So no, we have a great relationship with the city. They're just awesome to work with. Every department, I mean, they're so responsive. Anything you need, it's instant. I mean, if they aren't in, they'll call you right back. And I think that's about it. I could ramble on forever, but thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you, John. And next we have with us Jim Johnson, and he is with the Hastings Star-Gazette online paper at this time. Welcome, John. Yes.
Hi. Kind of nice that I followed John up here because a lot of what happened with the Hastings newspaper he talked about. The previous owners just one day shut the newspaper down. And I'm still mystified by why they did that. But my boss, Jim O'Rourke, O'Rourke Media Group, looked at this area and saw a lot of potential and bought a number of newspapers. He bought the Cannon Falls newspaper, the Red Wing Republican Eagle, and the Hudson Star Observer. And this happened in January of last year, so just over a year ago. He saw an opportunity, and that opportunity was reflected in August of last year. We restarted the Star-Gazette as an online newspaper. We actually have plans to bring back a print newspaper in sometime this year, maybe June, July timeframe. And that's something we're working for now. People think about newspapers as news and the news that goes into it. But a big part of a newspaper is delivering advertising and providing a way for businesses in a community to connect with readers and let them know what they offer at those businesses. And that's one of the reasons we're looking at bringing back the print product is we hear from advertisers who want that ability to reach more readers in the communities. So probably think, gosh, why would anyone buy newspapers at this time of the economy? This was still the middle of the pandemic when Jim bought these newspapers. We're actually doing very well. Year over year for our newspapers, we're up 30% on revenue, and that's existing papers. Hastings and River Falls aren't in there. Those are our online newspapers that we started up. But we are offering the online product and then also the advertising in our print products. So what we cover is we cover our communities. Mo mentioned hyper-local. We are hyper-local products. We cover just our communities. A lot of you in Dakota County have reached out to us with press releases, and most of the times we tell you, no, we're focused on Hastings and only on Hastings. And that's part of our formula, is to focus on one community and not branch out and try to grow into to other communities. We cover government meetings, of course, just like other newspapers. But we also cover, and I think the most important thing we cover is life in our communities. Arts, music, schools, people working, people living their lives. And that's really what helps us connect with our communities, is that intimate knowledge of the communities and being able to cover it and tell people the stories that are happening in their communities. So with that, thank you very much for having me here, and I look forward to hearing questions now.
Thank you, Jim. As you can see, we have 4 small businesses that are sitting up here, and one thing I feel that our community has learned through the pandemic is we need to support our small businesses, as you all have very small businesses in your communities, and supporting them is going to sustain our community and the business portion of it. So we're very thankful to have them. They work hard. They are at our beck and call. When something happens, they're there. So I can't say enough how much we appreciate what they do within our community. So one more round of applause for them and thank them for joining us today. Now I'd like to introduce Dan Waticha, as most of you know, as our city administrator. And Dan works well with these small businesses well too, bringing the news into the community. So Dan is my tag team, yes.
Thanks, Mayor. Want to keep an eye on the time too, but want to have a bit of a panel discussion, and probably for this, it's easier to keep everybody at the dais. There are lights that turn on your microphone, so when it's your turn to speak. But 2 or 3 questions for the panel, and then want to open it up that we can ask some Q&A from all of our audience here. We have 4 different media here. You all in different fashions cover city government, whether it's an actual city council meeting or some of the city's activities in town, filling potholes or park and rec activities. But you also have an audience of city officials, so probably an extra interest and attention on what is your perspective in your role as local media for covering the local government. And if we can work the way down the line at each of your thoughts on that, please.
All right. Like I said before, well, we have 2 channels. We have channel 14 and 15. We're now HD as well. We were excited when that transition happened. But our channel 14 or $7.99, that's all community programming. So with that, you'll see my show, Take a Hike, Mike, where I'm visiting different Hastings businesses. We do ribbon cuttings. We have a music show, which is called Around the Mic, which is actually produced by Kurt Radke, who's in the control booth right now filming this. But channel 15, or 859, is a complete government channel. So as you saw in the montage, we televise and live stream all of those meetings. And we're always looking for creative ways to cover the city government. So whether I'm meeting with Mary, Dan, or Dawn, we're thinking, what's the best way to get this message out to the community? It used to just be cable TV. Now we put everything on Facebook, everything goes on YouTube. We have an Instagram account, we have a Twitter account. We're creating a TikTok account. Any TikTok fans out there? No, none at all, okay. Oh, there we go, John Mcloone. He'll be our 1 follower. No, just kidding. But basically, yeah, we're always trying to figure out ways, where is the audience? Where are people looking? Where are they seeking out their information? So a couple other things I want to talk about here was, in regards to Take a Hike, Mike, I did an episode with the fire department as well. A lot of people know about the fire department, but they don't know all of the intricacies of it and just all the great things that this wonderful team does. So they had me driving an ambulance. That was difficult, which ended up with me just knocking over a bunch of cones. Luckily, we did it in a secured parking lot. They also had me putting out fires, test fires, not like real fires in town. But basically, it just goes back to, what does the consumer want to see? What's a creative way to get that message out for the community? We teamed up with, there was a farm in Hastings, and Congresswoman Angie Craig came during the big drought that we had. So they let us follow her around with a camera, film it, and just an intimate conversation with the farmers about the drought. So that was another kind of creative program that we put together. We filmed forums over the years, many forums, so whether it's a mayoral race, council race, state representative races. And in the past, they were always right here in this room, but we're going to talk about challenges a little bit later, but with COVID, we were forced to go completely virtual with that. And it was exciting, but it was also scary. It's like, oh, this is easy. We can just do it from our TV station. But then hoping everybody shows up online on time and hoping their internet works. Everybody says, oh, my internet always works. But then when it comes time when you really need it and somebody's trying to speak during a forum and they turn into like a robot, basically, where they're freezing, and that's never a good thing. So But we do a lot of PSAs as well. You saw the one with Chief Schaefer up there talking about fentanyl awareness. That's something that has been talked a lot about in this community. The City Minute, which I talked about already. We do news packages as well, lots of news packages, whether it's about something more casual, such as, hey, ice fishing coming to town, teaming up with Parks and Rec, or new Target coming to town, like you saw in the video. We also do historic packages, teaming up with the City Hall Pioneer Room lead volunteer, Cindy Thury Smith, housing developments with John Hinsman, and just lots of things. I could go on and on. I'm not going to steal all the time from these people up here, but I just want to reinforce creativity and where is our audience viewing content is what we always try to look at.
From the radio standpoint, I do think that we can't be quite as creative. Some of our shows can be, but I think it's kind of difficult. We have great access to our local elected officials, and when I say local, I mean Prescott. We do a lot of great shows on an ongoing basis with the mayor of Prescott, the city administrator, the Chamber of Commerce, and then we have that same access here, which is great, with a lot of Dakota County, because we're the county seat. We do cover a lot in Dakota County, and I also think we have a great relationship with all of the City of Hastings department heads, which is great. The school board, we have an ongoing show with the superintendent of schools, both for Prescott and Hastings. We have an ongoing show with board chairs. We have an opportunity, I think, to also then show the news that's going on, the serious stuff, and then we do like to, again, be hyper-local. We cover Prescott and Hastings sports, news, community events. So it is helpful, I think, to go deeper on some topics, and we also have 19-minute interview segments. We have 15 new ones a week, and so we have 15 different 19-minute shows that really go deep into any certain topic. Some are great, some, as you know, are not so great that we have to cover. But you can't cover a story accurately or fairly if you don't have access to leaders in a community. And so I always like to say I want to have repeat customers, so we try really hard to not go into the weeds on peripheral things, report the facts. Sometimes they're uncomfortable. There's a couple of stories right now that are uncomfortable to be reporting, but we have to report the facts. And I think that's what the community wants, and I think that's the only way to build trust. And trust in a market this small is essential. And trust is easy to lose, but it's super hard to build. You know that from what you do. So I think that's, we always have to have verified sources. My boss calls me misinformation, MISS information. So I'm not in the news department. I do a lot of community things. And, but you have to be, he says, you always have just part of the story, and I'll say to him, but it's the best part. But you can't run with the best part of a story. You have to have, so we try to verify from 2 verified sources and really just and if, you know what, if you put the facts out there, people will make their own decisions sometimes anyway, and that's just and the access that we have, we can't do our job fairly. So thank you very much. And this is a great opportunity, I think, to really continue to get the word out that the media has had a bashing over the last couple of years. There's plenty of fake places you can get your news. We're trying super hard at KDWA, and I know my colleagues are also, to really get the truth out and to do it from a local standpoint, because I think a town the size of Hastings is sometimes overlooked in broader media markets. So that's all I have to say.
I'm a news guy. I'm a government guy. I've been, I started covering government meetings when I was 16 years old, and I had to, or 15 actually, I I had to get a ride to town board meetings from people on the board to cover their meetings. And so I'm maybe a little less on the creative side, and I sit through meetings. I don't think anybody is. You guys have been through a lot of meetings, but man, I've been doing it for 41 years, 2 to 3 nights a week. So I've seen it all. But I love covering government meetings, and I'm not lying. I think I wrote 6,000 words from the last Hastings City Council meeting, and I love that kind of stuff. And then I'm gonna introduce for a second here Bruce Karnick, because he's kind of more the creative side, and he's kind of more at all the events, and he's when the first week he came on board, I nicknamed him Bruce on the Loose, and we set him loose in Hastings, and he's one of the most talented photographers at any newspaper in the state of Minnesota. And Bruce, why don't you kind of give a little update of what you do?
Well, first I'll apologize. Do I get brand new grandpa brain for forgetting about this morning? I saw her last night, so I was like, all right, long night. Anyway, the creative side to me is just, it's fun to be able to look at something and take a picture of it differently, or tell a little bit of a different side of that story. You know, Mo had said something that makes a ton of sense, is that there are sometimes we have to tell the stories that make you uncomfortable. But how can you tell that in a positive way? What positives came out of that? You know, as far as covering the government meetings, sometimes I help a little bit, not very often. But it's always interesting to see what's going on in the government side. My forte is the sports stuff. That's what I do, is I cover the fun stuff in the community. I cover the sports stuff. You know, and in telling stories in print, you know, Mo, you guys are, like you said, you're limited to like 19 minutes. We're not limited on really words if we don't want to be. So we can go into the depth of things in a article that, you know, digs up the you know, interesting past of how did this kid get into wrestling, like Beisel at State. You know, his grandfather was his coach. And if you see the picture I have of him, he's jumping into his grandpa's arms at State after he won the 106 weight class. I get to capture those things, and I get to tell you guys about it. I was in tears at Target Center when I took that picture because it was so moving. So those are the things that I love to catch and I love to share with this community. Access to the officials is so vital when it comes to things like the uncomfortable stories, like the Kelly Kosurik thing, you know, or even the false alarm up at the high school that happened. You know, if I don't get to talk to the officials, I have to go to second and third sources that are students or parents or teachers or, you know, sheriff's officers that I know to get the information. So it's vital that when we email the city official, we don't wait 5 days. You have to respond quickly to us because we all have deadlines, especially if you're in the media that gets out every day, like, you know, the radio station does or HCTV does. You know, if you're a print once a week, yeah, we have a little bit of a delay we can wait in there, but it's vital that we get information instantly so we can start working on the story, or if we release it on social media, we can do that. And it's just fun to tell the stories of this town. It really is. I've lived here my entire 48 years, and I have a blast talking about this town and these people in this town and my neighbors and my friends, you know. You got to build those relationships with everybody you can. And I mean, I have high school students that will call me like, dude, where are you? What do you mean? You're missing a game. There's a game today? Yeah, it got moved to 7 o'clock instead of tomorrow. Oh crap, thanks for the heads up. And this is a high school student calling me going, where are you? So, you know, when you have those connections and stuff, it's really fun to do this.
So newspapers have traditionally covered government. That's one of the main things that they cover, covering city council meetings, school board meetings, county commissioner meetings. That's being there and covering those things. As several people have said, it's become a little bit more difficult with COVID and not being able to go to meetings physically sometimes. Fortunately, it looks like, at least for now, we're coming out of that and meetings are opening up again. So one of the things that we do, in addition to reporting what happened at the meetings, the votes, the discussions that happen at the meetings, is looking for topics that are important to the community and telling the community why this is important to them as members of the community. There's two issues that all of our newspapers look at, and that is housing and broadband. Finding housing for people who want to work in your communities is, in many cases, next to impossible. I just moved here, and some of the communities we looked at, there'd be one house on the market in our price range. And so that's a big thing. Broadband's another. Because people need to be able to connect to the internet. When kids are home and are studying from home, they need that bandwidth to be able to do their lessons. So just kind of in summary, covering meetings is important for us, but looking at the issues is really what we do well, and telling the issues and telling why those issues are important to readers.
Thank you. Next panel question. Much of this was more on covering city meetings, PSAs. Recognize we got into wrestling tournament a little bit, but are there additional comments more about covering the community more broadly than just what's happening at City Hall?
One of the things I was curious about is how many of you have a TV station in your community that you team up with, just by show of hands? Okay, so a couple of hands. So I was just curious about that. So typically we have 1 or 2 staff members dedicated to doing weekly news packages. Our other staff members tackle packages as needed. It takes a long time to obviously schedule the interview, we all deal with that, but filming and then editing. A lot of people don't realize how long editing takes. So we have to be very selective about what we decide to put our resources into. So we also try to cover a spectrum of doing more serious packages, such as when the Regina Birth Center closed, to something lighter, like when a Hastings woman called me and she says, "Hey, I'm gonna break a Guinness World Record, and I want you guys to film it." So there's a woman in town that she could spell words backwards incredibly fast. So do you want to guess how many words she could spell backwards in 1 minute? It was about 39 is what she got. I believe it was 39. And she was disappointed by that score. So we're always trying to find just different creative, fun, interesting stories. We never want to miss out on the big ones, but overall we try to show a lot of positivity in the town. We're never going to sweep anything under the rug that's more serious, but we also, for the serious stuff, we try to balance it out by showcasing a lot of the positive that's happening in the community.
Was that 2-letter words?
No, they were long. I think there was a requirement they had to be so many letters. And there actually is a video package of that. Our Facebook page is very active. A lot of times we get more views on our Facebook page than what people see on TV. Something I'm going to talk about in a little bit is people keep cutting cable, so we're forced to evolve and adapt where everything's on Facebook, everything's on YouTube. If you go to our website, you can literally just watch our channel live, and everything is there on demand. So if you're curious about anything I'm talking about or you want to binge watch Take a Hike Mike, it is all available there. Like I said, we do a music show as well. So a lot of times we're covering the community not with traditional news packages, but programs because we're a TV station. So we'll do 20-minute shows, 30-minute shows. We have a cooking show called Aprons Optional that has different Hastings guests on. So, and Dan, I think you should come on sometime because I believe you have a chili recipe, a famous chili recipe. So maybe we'll have to get the city administrator on to do some cooking on our cooking show sometime. Another thing too is high school sports. We do a lot of high school sports. We're sometimes covering 2 games, 3 games a week, and we live stream everything now. I remember when I started 10 years ago at HCTV, I never dreamed we'd be putting everything online and that we'd have the ability to actually live stream, where people can be commenting. I mean, social media is great, but also social media has its challenges, as we can all relate, where, hey, there's a lot of great compliments, and then people, there's something about like media, people are not afraid to just roast us if, oh, you know, the audio's a little quiet, and bam, you know, everybody comes out of the woodwork to slam us. But a lot of positive feedback from the community with that. And we have a new sports recap show called Raider Recap. Parents are just very appreciative. When COVID hit, a lot of these events were like shut down and parents couldn't even go and see their kids perform. So the athletic director for Hastings High School reached out to us and he said, hey, can you guys cover this, 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 and this? And our sports went from doing like a game every other week to like sometimes now like 2-3 times a week. So very thankful for that relationship. And at HCTV, we're never afraid to try new things. Sometimes something really good comes from it. Other times we'll try a program or a show and it doesn't go so well. Like we did a pizza-themed game show, which was good for a while, but then we realized we should maybe be putting our resources into other things than pizza-themed game shows. It was called Go for the Dough, and again, that's on our YouTube channel if you want to see that. So those are just some thoughts that came to mind on this topic.
We also cover community events, and we do the best that we can to not only cover things that are mainstream, like mainstream sports, but we enjoy Special Olympics. You know, there's a great Special Olympics team in Hastings and called the Hastings Sharks. They don't get a lot of press, so we are thrilled to be able to showcase them. You know, Little League, everybody talks about the state wrestling champions, but those kids started out somewhere. Parents are nuts for any sort of coverage for. There's a great athletic department or athletic group in Hastings. So it's kind of fun to dig deeper on different things. We also so enjoy, there's so much good that goes on in all of your communities, I'm sure, but I can only speak for Hastings and Prescott. There are so many talented kids out there. They're the future leaders that are going to be sitting where you're sitting right now. So it's a privilege to really not only cover the go-getters, but to cover, there's a lot of kids that do things quietly behind the scenes. We so enjoy that. And one of my favorite shows that we do is a 19-minute show called Everybody Has a Story. Because you know what? Everybody does have a story. And I think we could flag down any car going by on Highway 61, and we could talk to that person, and everybody has something unique about them. I think, as Mike said about trends, that's what people want as well. They want it balanced. They want, don't just tell me the yucky stuff. Let's talk about the great that goes on. So at KDWA, we try really hard to be balanced. And that's why I'm not in the news department. I really enjoy digging deep into the good things that are going on because there's plenty of them. And again, we're so grateful when we have repeat customers and people that want to talk to us on and on.
Beautiful. We try to really integrate ourselves in the community. I have coffee with several local pastors, and they write a column for our paper. And one of the neatest stories is one of them shared that there was a 91-year-old man who was not religious and had followed his column in the paper, and he was passing away, and he asked his daughter if he could get him, and he sat with him that afternoon when, and I just thought that was such a neat connection to the community, in a way that is being really helpful. And we also, we're a big believer in every community that we publish in, we give back. Several times a year, we'll have a week, the last couple of years, the week before Christmas, every penny of every subscription we sell, we give to, Hastings Family Service or the United Way we did for several days one year. So, we've given back thousands a year. And we just think that's an important part of what we do too. We ask, and we get a lot of support from the advertisers in the community, and we feel like we need to give that back as well. So that's kind of one thing that we do. I think that's a little different than some other companies. I'm not talking about you guys are all, so, but I mean, it's just a different model. We really try to, anybody calls me, 6:30 this morning, I had coffee with somebody that everybody in town here would know. And it's just a different, we would just try to be connected.
Massive, like 15-volume history of civilization. And Will had a philosophy for those books, the story of civilization. He said civilization's a lot like a river running through a area. And in the river, sometimes it runs red with blood, wars, and government and things that are happening, things that are the official history of an area. But meanwhile, on the banks of the stream, people are living. They're making art. They're singing music. They're having babies. And Will's philosophy was he covered what was going on the streams because that is really the story of civilization. We have a similar philosophy with our newspapers. We want to be covering what's going on the banks of the river, also covering what's the river itself, but the real story, what's happening in a community, is the story of what goes on those banks. So, and that's really what we do.
Adding to the commitment to the community piece, I really think that these high school kids have my back because they know I have theirs, and they know that I'm committed to being there for them. As a sports guy, when I go to an away game in Chanhassen for football, they look at me like, "What are you doing here? That's a long drive." Yeah, but you guys are important, and you're right there on the sideline with them, and you're right there watching these events unfold. The commitment to that coverage is so important, and even the lesser sports like lacrosse. Whoever talks about lacrosse. Well, lacrosse is becoming bigger in the state, So my commitment to these kids has always been I will make it to one game every week of theirs, so every sport. That means in winter there's 9 sports, and there'll be 10 soon. Some of you guys have dance teams at your high school. We have a club now. So now that we have a dance team club, in the winter I will have 10 different sports a week, and that's about 3 hours or more of coverage that you have to dedicate to each sport. And my commitment to the kids is I will make it to one a week, and I will also make it to at least one away game every season. So when you show up and do that, it means the world to these kids, it means the world to these parents, and it shows the commitment that we have to the community to get their kids and their stories out.
Thanks for that perspective. It dawned on me a bit, or struck me a bit, that I think of my role, or my staff's role, as public service, but hearing your perspective on telling the stories of the community also is a public service, and thank you on that. Heard a couple of hints through some of these about challenges that you face. I even heard some of them were self-imposed. But if briefly could maybe touch on what you see in challenges for your area of media, and also importantly, how you address those and overcome those challenges.
So a unique challenge for us being a cable TV station is as time goes on, more and more people want to just cut the cable and completely move on from it. That's why, like I said before, it's important that we adapt and evolve and grow and put our stuff on the internet and whatnot. But because people are cutting cable, that means our funding is going down, which has been difficult. So we've been forced to evolve and come up with a new sponsorship program, which we're working on now, where businesses and organizations have the opportunity to sponsor us, and we create custom professional videos for them. So that's one of the big things. I mean, we've been around since 1986, and something like this we never thought we'd be doing, because TV, you know, is supposed to be forever, right? So it's just a changing of times. Another thing too is when COVID hit, we didn't know if we would be completely ignored, if we wouldn't be able to go out and film anything. So we were kind of prepared for, hey, we got to come up with some creative programming. But instead what we realized is people couldn't have an audience come to their events. So all of these events that were supposed to be in person, all of these businesses and organizations were calling me for virtual alternatives. So we became really popular with taking, whether it's a gala, a large meeting, a music festival, they call us and they're like, Mike, do you have any ideas? How do we do this? How do we live stream? How do we make this event still happen? So we were really thankful for that opportunity to build relationships with community members to, instead of canceling an event, making it happen. And sometimes with completely changing these events from how they've been done many years or how we cover it, we've realized that there's new and improved ways we can do it if we kind of look at the silver lining. So whenever we approach a challenge, it's difficult and it's sad, but we figure, hey, let's look for the positive, and a lot of times we figure out ways to just improve the product in the end. So like I said before, the virtual candidate forum was a big one. Like I said, that was quite a challenge. Shout out to Kurt Radke again, who's in the booth in there, making it so, you know, completely virtual, no guests coming out. Another thing that we did, this isn't city government related, but there's something in the community called the Sweetheart Dance, where little kids come out dressed up with a parent or guardian. And they were going to cancel it, and they called us. They're like, is there any way you guys can think of doing a virtual, like, daddy-daughter dance? So what we did was we had a DJ come into our studio dressed up. I was dressed up as well. And then we had all these people basically through Zoom log on from their webcams. They were all dressed up, all these little girls dressed up in dresses. And they were dancing with their fathers and their family members. And we would feature different, like, living rooms. We'd bounce to it, then we'd bounce back to the DJ, me dancing with the DJ. And a lot of kids really enjoyed it. So obviously, there's nothing sadder than seeing these events, get canceled and stuff. But finding creative alternatives has been kind of a weird little silver lining part of COVID. So.
I think, like all of my colleagues here, I think some of the challenges at the radio station, probably at the companies or the organizations you work at, is bandwidth and trying to be everything to every person. And so I think that's what's so nice about this forum. As you can see, we all have strengths that I think makes coverage of a town like Hastings and Prescott more full, and I think that's a positive. One of the challenges we certainly have, and again, I'm probably speaking for a lot of people, is that social media has become perceived as news. And Pew reports 53% of Americans get their news from Facebook. That's frightening. That should be frightening to all of us in this room. 53% of people get their news from Facebook. So the internet also, I think, as I spoke earlier, has really empowered people to think that they're experts on many fields and many topics. I think also there's a lack of respect for us as humans, but certainly as the media has, does anyone sell used cars here? The media is like, we are, in the olden days, I thought that the media really should be trusted. And I do think that there is a little bit of mistrust. So what KDWA has done is this lack of respect. We actually have shut down, we shut down our Facebook comment page for months, because what was happening was people were using our legitimate news platform to chime in on something that was not factual, but yet people would say, well, I read it on KDWA. No, you didn't. You read somebody's comment. So we just shut it down, and we still do that now periodically if we think something is going to be a little controversial or dicey or something that people are going to use our platform to legitimize their kooky thoughts, or, you can say your thoughts on your own. That's your freedom of speech, but your freedom of speech can't be on our platform. So that's what we continue to do, and got a lot of flack for it, but I think that is the only fair way to continue to really report the news, and we want to be a trusted source of the news. So also, I think in a small town like this, weeding through what is social small-town gossip versus what's a real news story. Many of you probably have that same challenge. We are asked all the time to get to the bottom of something. Get to the bottom of why my neighbor's on the roof, and I know he's getting medical disability. Okay, can't speak to that. Call his insurance company. So those kinds of things, there's a place for what we're trying to focus on. Even though we're hyper-local, we're trying to really focus on the big things. The other piece is that, and as my colleagues know, there are many Facebook accounts that are fake. So we are not going to go back and forth online with either a bot or some kooky Facebook thing that is not. So that's the other thing that we are trying to stay out of the weeds on, a lot of things like that. So we will never go back and forth with our people that put comments. And like I said, we shut down our comments on a lot of our stories as well. The other challenge, I think, and I think my colleagues can speak to that, is everything has become partisan. Why can't you run for school board without people asking you what your political affiliation is? Why can't you be on a county, or not a county commission, why can't you be on one of the Hastings commissions without people asking that? That's been a challenge, and I think the world has become more partisan. That's a challenge in the media, I think. Another challenge is to remain neutral and report on things in a non-biased way. And that's what's so great about having the coworkers I have. We disagree on many things, but we agree on many things as well. So we have different ways of approaching things. I'm soft on crime, is what I've been told. And I have other colleagues that aren't. So it's good that we have each other to bounce things off of. But that is a challenge, and we want to, again, give out a balanced product. And then the pandemic, as everybody knows here, has really taken its toll, not only on the media, but on local businesses. KDWA they rely on advertisers. And when businesses are closed, they don't advertise. And during the pandemic, I thought my boss did a great thing, like John was talking about, giving back to the community. Dan Massman gave business owners an opportunity to come on the live, to come on and really talk about their business. Oh, you're doing takeout now because your restaurant is closed? Tell us about your meals. Tell us about. So that was a really nice thing that he bit the bullet, didn't get advertising dollars. But you know what? It's like we talked earlier. If you put good out in the world, more good comes back. And that's really what we want to continue to do. We had to do all of our in-depth interviews virtual, and that's tough. You know, it's easier to talk to somebody in person. It's hard to talk on the phone. But you know what? It all worked out. So I think we want to be the best, just so that you know, we want to do the best. We want to show the good in a good light. And we're your friends, I promise you. It is hard when you live in a community like this and you have to report on distasteful things. But you know what? If you report the facts, I learned this from Mayor Mary Fassbender. If you report the facts, let them fall where they may. And I think that's a good way of doing business as well. So, thanks.
I can just say ditto to a lot of those things, but, you know, COVID was a lot of things, but from the standpoint of open government, I think it actually brought meetings into more homes than, I know personally myself, on a Monday night, I could by myself cover 3 meetings, you know, and tape them in different rooms, and I'm not gonna lie to you, by 8:30, there might have been a Miller Lite open. So, but yeah, so, you know, in general, and Mike could, you know, spoke to that too, the good job they've done of broadcasting these city meetings. And there are a lot of people who had never seen one before, you know, I mean, before COVID, I think. And so I think that's something, that's not a challenge, obviously, but a lot of COVID was challenge. Made people crabby, you know, really made people crabby. I've had The same article, I had 4 people cancel because I was too liberal and 3 because I was too conservative. You know, it's just everybody became a expert and really got a voice. One of our biggest challenges is we don't give away our content for free. I can't put my kids through college on people looking at the paper for free. So we've had to retool some things. We've had to, when I started out, we needed to get a printed paper out in people's hands, you know, and our website was a tool for that. We got a lot of subscriptions off it, you know, now, you know, the biggest question you get some weeks is, you know, where do I read it for free? You know, like, where do you get your groceries for free? You know, we're a business, and Bruce doesn't let me not pay him for free. You know, he doesn't work for free, so we gotta get something out of the deal too. But we're retooling some things, and we've got a new website that in September was going to be out in 2 months, and I guess Tuesday now it is. So there are some things like that, but overall, the challenges of the newspaper industry, especially, you know, most of them they did themselves. You know, in around 2010, this internet thing came about, and they thought, wow, we should just put our newspaper out there, and then 3 years later, they sat back and they said, nobody's buying my newspaper anymore. So it's a double-edged sword. You know, I know my friends at O'Rourke do a really good job on the internet side of things, and I know that a challenge that we have is to do better on that. So that's all I have.
Well, I'm sure one of the things that faces us as a challenge is the same thing that faces you, and that's partisanship in politics. It seems like no matter what the issue is, a new building, definitely masks in counties, but things break and there's no consensus on this. People are either on one side or the other, and people don't seek compromise. Newspapers, radio stations, TV stations also have another added burden in that, and that is being called fake news. Something that a former president came up with. Anytime there was news that he did not like, he labeled it fake news. We get that all the time now. Before 2016, I never heard that. Never heard that. So those are two big challenges in just covering the news, is dealing with partisanship and dealing with just the accusation of fake news when people don't like what you're reporting. From an operations standpoint, our reporters are almost all remote. They work from home. Our reporter in Hastings worked out of the library here in town. That is something that, from an economic standpoint, when we purchased these newspapers, the decision was made not to purchase buildings. It's one of the reasons that we are being successful financially. But that challenge is getting reporters to connect to the communities when they, A, may not live in the community, and B, are not in the community 40 hours a week. So we're working to overcome that, but those are some of the challenges that we face.
I think we've touched a little bit too before, was, like I said, the timing of information. That's a huge challenge. You know, if I get a phone call that says, hey, the power's out downtown, okay, what did you see? Oh, I didn't see anything. Okay, who'd you talk to? I didn't talk to anybody. Okay. And then calling up and saying, all right, where's the power out? What's going on? So I can go get a picture and, you know, get a quick notification out on Facebook, hey, this is when it's going to be returned. Receiving accurate official information is another big one. You know, making sure that the officials are reaching out to us and actively saying, okay, this is the information we know. This is the information we know is not true. So when you hear this from people, ignore this piece. Tell people that you know that officially that's not true. You know, help us stop small town rumors. You know, when you go to an official source and ask for information and they say, you know, I'm a witness, I saw this, and then all of a sudden, no, this wasn't true. Okay, well, I gave you the opportunity to tell me that wasn't true. Stuff like that. Notifications of information, you know, just gathering the information. Like you said, you have a remote person, you know, that reports. I'm in town, I live in this town. I spend my life here, and I don't know everything that goes on. It's impossible for me to know everything that goes on. So making sure that just because you see something happening, oh, the newspaper must not know about that, oh, the radio station must, no, call us. Call us and tell us. Even if we get 10 phone calls on the same thing, hey, thank you for that information. We're glad we've got somebody covering it right now, because I can't see everything that's going on. Sometimes I'll come upon a car crash that I'll get in the newspaper because I just randomly happen to be driving that way right now to go get lunch or go cover another story, whatever the case is. So there's so much going on in our communities that we need those tips. We need that help, all of us. I mean, every one of us needs to know something that's going on up there, you know, around town. Trust of the media members, like you said, the respect that you know, that we don't always get. We don't have CNN money. None of us up here have Fox News money. That, you know, let's be realistic. I can't go and take a story and tell a story with the risk of losing my job or, you know, causing damage to the paper. I'm not a gotcha reporter. That's not my job. My job is to report the information as I get it. It's to report the facts. The false alarm at the high school, I flat out said to Bob McDowell, the superintendent, I want to know what happened. As a parent, my first question is, how did this happen? Well, that's not important to the story. Yes, it is. I'm not trying to get someone in trouble, because my follow-up question is, what happened? What's going forward now? What are you doing forward? What did you learn that this won't happen again? Let's put parents' minds at ease. And then it opened up the conversation of, okay, now I see where you're going with this. Whereas originally when I say, you know, how did this happen? It's, you're trying to get me in trouble. We're trying, you know, no, I'm trying to show what good came out of this, how you guys learned to make this a more safe environment for our kids and make it better. And that's the approach that I always try to take is have, you know, what was learned from it, what can be improved. And that's challenging when people are really like, oh, you're the media, I don't want to talk to you. So, and I think everybody up here would agree with that, you know, just that's a challenge for us.
Dan, can I ask a question?
That's exactly where I was going. Is time for a quick question or two before we wrap up? Thanks, Mayor.
John, make this comment, which I think most of my peers would agree with. It would be nice to have multiple forms of reporting in our communities, right? In Farmington, for example, we're one of 7 cities that's covered by one paper and probably 3 reporters. So, Mo, to your point earlier, we don't have the luxury of getting 2 sides to a story. We get one story, how one person perceives it and wants to report it, and I'll be honest, most times it's garbage. It is garbage. It's not an accurate representation of what was said. The editing portion took this much and turned it into this, which completely changed the dynamic of it. So that inevitably comes into access. I'm not going to waste my time giving it to someone who's going to turn around and shape a story that happens to be in a free paper to help have the compelling offer for that week to get subscribership and ad space, right? It serves nobody. Case in point, we have a situation with our city administrator, which we're handling on Monday. We had a news story go out about the council being undecided before the celebratory piece was on the departing city administrator. What do your residents think? You're asking for people to chomp at something, right? It's garbage. So constraint on Farmington's behalf is having more than one resource. Now, can we lean on internal communications director and allow our specialist to do her thing? Absolutely, but news coming from the government source, I mean, how biased does that look, even with great intentions, right? So not really so much a question there, other than I would love it if we had multiple viewpoints and different ways of reporting on a lot, because there's far too many times that I open up the paper or read it online in my community, and we find the story that was meant to get you to read the paper that might be on that line of compelling, good or bad, but yet there's 8 really good stories that should be told that tell the story of our community. There's no time or effort put into it. So, I mean, again, I won't speak for my peers, but I don't think there's many of us in this room that aren't in a very similar situation when it comes to access to good reporting, balanced reporting, and varying viewpoints. So I applaud what you're doing in Hastings, and if y'all want to hire some staff and come on over the 024, we'll welcome you.
I would make a motion that instead of putting a second print paper in Hastings, they should go to Farmington. All in favor? News deserts are really one of the most serious crises facing a lot of communities. You know, and it's, you know, they talked about the Facebook rumors, and, you know, instead of turning to the newspaper, you know, when the police are down the street, you know, it's, anything can happen to that story. And really you know, studies show that towns without good local news sources have higher taxes, you know, a lot of problems. So it just, I'm not, you know, I have people that that vote in front of me, but on subjects, but that's a fact, you know. And you know, when I did my first 2 papers, it was too easy, you know, because I thought, man, I could have 100 of these babies going, and then it was like trying to find staff. You know, it's tough for everybody, and you know, we've got a couple of communities that we'd like to you know, start up in, and I know there's a growing media company to my right, so I would think the opportunities exist in you know, Dakota County for more newspapers, and I'd be surprised if there aren't.
Have you thought of doing something with your communications group at a city level, like the mayoral minute? And you then become a spokesperson. Maybe you rotate in your department heads and you do it on a weekly basis. I mean, I don't think it would be that hard. You could film it, put it on your Facebook page, because we know 53% of the people are getting their news from Facebook. But maybe that would open you up to a different audience, and maybe if you just present the facts, like you said, there's so much great stuff going on in Farmington, maybe have a rotation. We rotate with the mayor and the city council after every meeting. Mayor Mary gives a preview of what's gonna happen, and then we give a recap, and we do that with other local meetings, just to get the word out in your own words. It's not edited. I mean, you could edit it yourself, but maybe just a minute or 2, and get people, you know, to look at that as another way of getting the truth of all the good that's going on. Just a thought I was thinking of.
You know, so I'll go back a little bit to COVID. The one reporter that covers at least primarily 3 of the cities in close proximity, including mine, was laid off during COVID. So then there was no reporting. So there was a complete absence. Specifically in our community, we had little to no coverage. Our communications specialist, she just started a podcast. We do our quarterly currents. We push a ton out through Twitter and Facebook. Ironically, we found that our police department has the greatest reach. Their page has the most amount of touch points, we'll call them. So sometimes there's content that's shared that's not police related, simply for the ability to reach someone.
It sounds like you're doing all the right things.
We're working
and
on
that
it.
You're moving forward again, I think it's just changing people's philosophy. If you are in a news desert, then maybe what you're doing is the right thing, creating it yourself, getting the word out.
Another thing too, if you want to chat about, I know some apps that make live streaming super easy and professional for a pretty low price, where you can easily add like little video clips that you film on your phone or pictures, lower third graphics, if that interests you. But I was going to say exactly what Mo said, just be your own, just put out your own content. I love that you have a podcast because those are so popular right now. So it's just the hope that people gravitate towards you instead of the tabloidy headlines that are driving clicks and purchases.
Thank you.
One of the things you might want to look at, and I don't know if the newspaper in your area would be open to this, but we invite mayors, city managers, school district superintendents to write a monthly column for us that goes on our opinion page. And it's an open forum for them to be able to communicate through our newspaper directly with readers. That may be something you want to look at.
Thank you.
We're at 9:30. If there's no other burning questions that have to be asked, appreciate all of your time this morning.